agriculture in the country, and to say that over the years, the problem that you have alluded to, the issue of food importation, the issue of youth, has been around with us. The framework on which the current agriculture ministry is being run, or is agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy. Mr. Chairman, I want to raise this issue broadly to say the following. First, there has been a misguided notion, I think, over the years that we have all made. And that is to say that the focus, the initial focus of everything in agriculture is production. Mr. Chairman, what we must refocus on in the ASDGS is coming on for review, because it was structured in 2019 and is coming up for review after 5 years. Mr. Chairman, the only way that agriculture is going to be the kind of industry, the kind of structure, the kind of mainstay for our people that we are ever going to construct is if the farmer becomes a central consideration of everything that we do. Mr. Chairman, until and unless the farmer looks at his profit and loss statement and sees that he is making more money than he is spending, we are going to continue having issues of food security. We are going to continue having issues of underproduction of food items, as well as cash crop items, as well as livestock items. So the focus to me, and what we must begin to philosophize about, has got to be, how do we put more money in the farmer's pocket? If we ask ourselves that statement, and I want Mr. Chairman to say that I recall very distinctly that when I was appointed Cabinet Minister for Information, and I tried to figure out how to deal with the many problems that were there, we arrived at one sentence: let's take a telephone and it works. Everything else we do around us must be focused on that issue. Whether we are going to get international gateways, whether we are going to license other players in the market, it is all should be about the concept of a telephone working. Similarly, if we are going to revive agriculture, the only way we are ever going to do it is when the farmer is profitable. When the farmer is profitable, we'll have enough food. When the farmer is profitable, we'll have enough for exports and so on. But no matter how many papers we write, no matter how many debates we have, no matter how much discussion we are going to have, unless and until the farmer looks at his balance sheet and says that income equals price times quantity, we are not going to succeed. So for me, therefore, when we look at the sphere, when we look at the entire agricultural space, then things that we do should go to that. You talked about the youth. Youth today, Gen Zs, millennials, and others, are about one thing if they are going to go to business. It's about profit. It's about making money. No youth is going to go to agriculture because we are urging them to go there. They are only going to go to agriculture if they are going to make money. And the only way they are going to make money is by taking the necessary steps that we have to make in order for agriculture to be responsive to profit making. Now, Mr. Chairman, this is very broad, and therefore you allow me space just to expand a little bit. There are many activities within the agricultural sector that we have to carry forward, that we have to do. For example, just to take youth as an example. In order for us to attract the youth into agriculture, youth have no land to grow food on. A lot of the young people don't have land. So we have to think broadly about how can we afford them land first. There is a lot of land, ADC and other organizations, private sector, land that is lying idle, that is not being used, that we can lease to these people. Now, in order for us to lease land to these people, we have got to make sure that the land, that the use of the land that they are getting is going to be profitable to them. Because that's why, in the first place, they are going to go for that idea. How are you going to do that? Our research organizations must ensure that we have done proper soil analysis. Our seed people must have the correct seeds so that people can plant seeds that germinate, seeds that produce the correct product. We have got to plant the right crops in the right places so that they can grow en masse and produce more per acre. So we have got to use the technology because youth are interested in technology. And also we have to define, when we say that the youth should be involved in agriculture, which part of agriculture are we talking about? Because it is not just about growing to grow crops. For example, tourism in agriculture is being involved in agriculture. You know, you travel all over the world and you see yourself being taken to places where they grow all sorts of things in other nations. We want people to come to Kenya also to see our agriculture. That's an area that can be attractive to the youth. There is fintech and agri-finance. These are the areas that the youth are going to be interested in. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman, the business of agriculture has got to be looked at from a profit and loss in order for us to make it worthwhile and in order for us to revive it. Agriculture for the youth must be made cool. It is too ordinary. It's too boring. Youth are not going to go there the way it is structured today. It's got to be something more exciting that involves technology, that involves new ways of doing things, that involves areas in agriculture that we have not quite spent, our time on. Things like hydroponics, aquaponics. These are areas that they are going to look at. The use of technology means that they are going to introduce new things in agriculture that do not currently exist. What does that mean, therefore? It means that the training that we are going to engage in, working together with the ministries of education, we have to look at the training that we are giving the agricultural sector, the agricultural students. What are we training them in? The future of agriculture is going to be in technology. AI, for example, artificial intelligence, is going to play a very crucial role in the future of agriculture. And if that is the case, are we educating our people, our future farmers, enough to deal with that issue? They are doing it elsewhere. If you go across the world, they will be doing that. So the question is whether we are preparing ours to compete with the best in the world.
Thank you. Majority Leader, I will encourage you, nominee, to exercise some brevity in answering questions. You have 2 hours engagement with us.
I'm trying, Mr. Chairman. It's just the breadth of the question.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, maybe I'll start the CS nominee from his response to Mr. Ura's affidavit in respect to your suitability for appointment based on your professional academic qualifications. And he responded by saying that the fundamental criteria for appointment to such a position is based on one's ability to provide effective leadership and service to the public. And in that regard, you say you have the requisite qualifications to serve as Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, despite not having any training in agriculture. And probably you also didn't have any training in health when you served as Health Minister. But CS, in my view, you did well in terms of communicating, especially around the COVID time. You were on TV, in fact, people christened you the COVID CS. I would want to hear what exactly you intend to do, because again, in my view, we have had a communication problem, and more so in the State Department for Livestock and also the State Department for Agriculture. You remember last year the issues that we had with subsidized fertilizer procurement and the communication that came around that issue. Towards the end of the year, we also had a similar problem. I had to withdraw a bill that came to Parliament from the State Department of Livestock, the Livestock Bill, largely on account of the disinformation that was being propelled in both mainstream and social media. And this bill is anchored on policies that are espoused by the government through the ministry. I would want to hear what you intend to do now as Cabinet Secretary. One, to provide that effective leadership within the ministry to communicate effectively to the public what is contained in the bills that you will bring to Parliament, because Parliament tends, and in this case, my office of the Leader of Majority, we tend to take the flak from everybody, believing that all legislation that comes from government is authored by parliamentarians and the office of the Leader of Majority. So I want to hear first what you intend to do to ensure that there is effective leadership in terms of communication. And as I said, in my view, you have done well in your previous postings, whether it was in ICT or in health. To CS, I've also noted from your CV and the documents that have been submitted, as Cabinet Secretary in the past, you have served for 2 years in all the ministries you have served. Is it coincidence or fate? Because you are CS Health for 2 years, you are CS ICT again for 2 years. Are you going to be CS Livestock Agriculture for 2 years since you are being appointed in 2025? I don't know whether it's fate or by design. Lastly, you have spoken at length on the nexus between farming and the profit and loss for the farmer and what you would want to see in the ministry. We have also heard from government, especially from the president, that we have now, as a country, fixed our production side. I would want to hear, and again, based on your training as a student of commerce, what exactly do you intend to do to ensure that there is a proper nexus between the productivity that we are saying we have increased, whether it's sugar, whether it's maize, whether it's rice? How do you link that to markets? And bearing in mind that coffee, the coffee you are speaking about drying in your younger years, most of the marketing is done in the Ministry of Agriculture. It's in our State Department, in cooperatives, I think. Whether it is milk, again, you produce, the marketing is with someone else. Coffee you produce, tea you produce, marketing is done by someone else. How are you going to create that nexus to ensure that also the country benefits from your experience as a marketer and as a student of commerce to make farming profitable, not just for future farmers, but even for our current farmers, many of who probably are not as tech savvy as the younger generation. And I would really want, I was looking to hear when you spoke about the P&L, how you intend to get that nexus between the good productivity that we now have to making profits for farmers to make it profitable, because that's the only way you'll be able to sustain. This sector has been riddled by cartels, whether it is in the tea sector, coffee sector, milk sector, there are cartels all over. And we have seen in the past people come into this office, very good-looking people like yourself, with very good intentions, but they get swallowed by the cartels.
Thank you.
How do you intend to protect yourself from being swallowed by these coffee cartels, tea cartels, milk cartels?
Brevity.
Mr. Chairman, you'll agree that there's quite a bit to respond to here, but I'll try and be as brief as I can.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Let me start with the issue of communication, because I think that is what you laid emphasis on. I think the first thing to remember is that in my capacity, if I'm approved by this committee, in my capacity as a cabinet secretary, I am simply a cog. I'm simply part of a cog of people and stakeholders that must be involved in the decision-making processes that you have referred to.
You can't be part of a cog. You can be a cog in a wheel.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed, Mr. Chairman. One of the cogs. That is what I am. And Mr. Chairman, the long and short of it is the following, that it is not possible to make progress in that area unless we work together with the stakeholders. We have got to have a consultative approach to these things. Cows belong to individuals. Maize in chambers belong to individuals. They don't belong to the government. You know, coffee in coffee farms belong to individuals. So any decision that we make has got to be made with those individuals who are the owners of whatever products and commodities that we are going to be discussing. That's number one. Number two is that there are experts in these areas. There are also experts who have been trained to make decisions in those areas. And I'll tie that up with what you said about COVID, the issues of COVID, which I'll come to on its own at some point if the chairman will allow. And to say the following, that part of the reason why there was so much necessity of communicating virtually every day to the people is the weighty issue that was at hand. You are talking about life and death of people. And therefore, you need to keep them abreast with any issue that is developing in relation to their own lives. Because that is what it came down to. Similar, and that's why we had a press conference virtually every day, whether it was made by myself or other players, or other ministry officials. It was determined, we determined that that is the way we were going to handle communication to them. Now, to do so, we got the right information from the people who are technically qualified to give that information. We had epidemiologists, led by one Professor Anzara, who informed us about the right thing to tell people and the information that people need in order for them to make their own decisions. So the first thing is that we have got to be consultative. We have got to make people, we have got to consult people. We have got to consult the owners. We have got to, the owners of agriculture. We have got to consider the experts of agriculture so that as we make progress, we move together. We work together. If you take an example, and I mentioned coffee, even sugar. You cannot make decisions about sugar unless we involve the person who is actually going out there growing sugar, on day-to-day basis. The sugar actually belongs to him. And there is also obviously consultations with the other bodies, for example, this organization, the National Assembly and the Senate. There are institutions that are involved in what we are doing at the ministry. And you will remember, Mr. Chairman, that agriculture is essentially a devolved function. In Schedule 4 of the Constitution, there are the areas that are supposed to be handled by the county governments, and it divides it into areas that are also supposed to be handled by the national government. So we have to involve the stakeholders who are going to be largely, and to a large extent, the county governments. So in terms of communication, I want to be clear that we are going to establish a very robust, communication system that is going to be both in mainstream media as well as social media. And I know that Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Leader of Majority spoke about the ills sometimes, the negatives that come. I think sometimes we have to agree that in this day and age in the democracy, we have got to take both the positives and the negatives, and they are going to keep coming anyway, and that is not going to change. So I think for me, what I would like to do is use the same social media, use the same mainstream media, work with the fourth estate to try and disseminate information as much as I can to the farming community. And it won't be the first time, because during the period you have referred to, during the COVID period, part of the key players in terms of dissemination of information and the buy-in to the activities of government was actually members of the fourth estate. They are the ones who assisted us to succeed. And I want to say that my intention is to continue to work with the fourth estate as openly and as transparently as I can. We will be criticized, and that's fine too, because oversight is part of their job. So I intend to keep very closely, to work very closely with them. The area of social media. Social media is an area that has come to both help us. It helps us a great deal. There is also the negativity in the social media. And I know that, Mr. Chairman, if one were to talk broadly and say leadership has been made that substantially harder, through social media. But part of the hardship hardship and headaches that one gets from social media is also part of the way that we can communicate more easily, to our people, because they are also